All right, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Domestic Boyfriends podcast. My name is Mask, also known as Dean, and here's my co host, Cytoplastic Rage, also known as Vincent.
Hello.
This is the first episode. Take it easy on us. This is a TV show, anime, movie, comics, pretty much our personal likes podcast, where we're going to be talking about different things. We're going to be talking about some news. And for today's episode, our first episode is going to be about the critically acclaimed best movie to release in 2011, the Green Lantern movie starring Hal Jordan, starring Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, this movie, we'll get into it in a little bit, but this movie was not as bad as I remember it being, and as everybody claimed it to be. But first, we're going to do a little bit of news, some things that we've picked up in the past while that we think is kind of important and piques our interest. Do you want to go through your list first?
Sure, why not? First thing that popped in my mind was Bubble. For those not in the know, Bubble is a new Netflix original anime movie. I know that hearing Netflix original and anime go together right now is kind of scary because they've not had a good track record. But this is an actual animated thing, and they've done a good job for the most
And
part.
it's
And
stacked.
it's
Just
so
looking at
stacked.
it's a lot of great names in the industry.
Yeah, we have and I apologize if I butcher these names. Tetsuro Araki directing the movie, who's the guy behind Attack on Titan. We have Gen Urobuchi, who's writing the script and was the guy who wrote Madoka Magica. The character design is from Takeshi Obata, the guy behind Death Note. And then Hiroyuki Sawano is composing the music for it, and he's done music for like every major show under the moon,
Yeah,
most notably Attack on Titan, Kill la Kill.
the trailers for this, like, I don't even care if it's 90 minutes of them just flipping around. I have no idea what this movie is supposed to be about. We haven't really gotten details about it, just bubbles.
Bubbles and parkour, but I'm here for it, man.
If the soundtrack is banger, it'll keep me watching it. It just the visuals from the trailer itself just look amazing. I'm super
It's
excited to
so
see what it
pretty.
even is gonna be.
Yeah, that's coming up April 28th. I'm super excited. I know
That's not
that
far away at all. I didn't know it was
I
that
know
soon.
it's yeah, no, it's close. And then it's also going to be in Japanese theaters at some point, and I'm kind of holding out hope that it'll also hit the big screen over here in the
Yeah,
US.
because Fandango has been doing the Ghibli films. And like whenever Dragon Ball has been getting anything, they usually do U.S. releases.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll get some good reviews, and they can release it over here. Maybe not even in a dub, just sub would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Also coming up in April, we don't have an exact date for it yet. But we have the long-awaited season 2 of Rising of the Shield Hero. Uh, we get to check back in with our boy Naofumi and everyone's favorite Raftalia and Philo after 3 years.
Oh,
It's
that's
hard to
been so
believe
long.
that no, it's been 3 years since season one came
Oh
out.
my
Season one
goodness.
started in January of
Oh, okay.
2019.
Excuse me, audience. I haven't watched Shield Hero. It's on my bucket list. But that's crazy. It's been 3 years.
It's been 3 whole years,
I've
man.
heard people talk about it like in the past couple years, like it just came out. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah,
So it was a
no, it
pre-COVID. It was a pre-COVID anime.
was a pre-COVID anime. It was
Okay.
a different world back then.
Okay. So there's probably like production stuff that halted season two. I'm guessing.
There was a lot of delays. There were a lot of delays.
Understandable.
But when season 2 got announced, like I was always expecting a season 2 to happen. Season 1 was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Shield Hero, uh it, it does so much right with isekai, and it still does like the generic stuff, but I did not mind a single bit. Um
That's
the
cool.
first ep first episode of season 1 was just so jarring as well, because it was my first time seeing an episode 1 that was over 40 minutes long for like any
Oh
anime.
wow,
Yeah. Um but
well, that's exciting.
yeah, man. I'm really excited for it to happen. Uh the only other major things that I have, Risk of Rain 2 is a video game near and dear to my heart. And the first expansion just came out uh as of this recording today, the 1st of March. And supposedly I haven't gotten a chance to put any time into the expansion yet, but it's put in a lot of content into the game. 2 new characters, tons of new items, new areas, and up until March 8th, the expansion itself is going to be 35% off. So it's only $10
That's
for
exciting.
hours upon
I
hours of
haven't.
content.
Risk of Rain is something that's also on my list to play, and I didn't know that they were getting an expansion. That's news to me. So that excites me because it
Yeah, man.
makes the purchase more worthwhile if there's more content coming out.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Last thing, and I'm sure you want to talk about it too, Batman.
yeah, we'll get into that at the end of
Okay.
what I
Yeah.
have. So
Great. You go ahead.
I have some smaller things. Apparently, Jared Leto and Andrew Garfield were seen together at the Saga Awards. Paparazzi caught them together. Whether or not they're taking pictures together because Morbius is coming out, it's up in the air. If it's in the Andrew Garfield movie universe, who knows? Uh, Benedict Cumberbatch got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Pretty amazing thing. Benedict Cumberbatch, an amazing actor. Uh, take away everything that he's done in Doctor Strange. If you've ever watched Sherlock, he's amazing in it. Any of his other movies and films, he's a great actor, so he's definitely well deserved. In other news with Marvel, of course, by the time this has come out, people have probably already heard the Marvel Netflix shows have moved away and taken off of Netflix, and they are now on Disney Plus. They're getting moved to the 16th. So they got removed today, and they have 15 days until you can watch them again. Next is Moon Knight. Moon Knight had a new poster revealed. Pretty exciting. Get to see Mr. Knight in his costume, more clear details. Vincent, I think we've had conversations before. Are you a fan of Moon Knight?
I'm a huge fan of Moon Knight.
Yeah, where
Such a
they take
goofy
this
character.
show, I am excited because I didn't think Mr. Knight isn't like new, but he's definitely not like OG Moon Knight like type of vibes.
No, it's a Mr. Knight is a much more serious Batman-y feeling version of Moon Knight. I'm honestly really hoping that this show is going to be really gritty. And that's what things are looking like right now.
Yeah, wasn't it Kevin
Um,
Feige or somebody said they're not pulling punches with everything that's coming out?
yeah, no. This has a lot of potential. At first, when I heard Moon Knight was getting a TV show, I was excited, but I was also deeply concerned
Yeah,
because Moon Knight has always been a very goofy
he's
character.
very obscure. Like I'm pretty sure everybody could like pick out Captain America and Iron Man from a crowd, but if you show them Moon Knight, they might be thinking of some other people.
What kind of club is he in?
Yeah. So I'm really excited as a newer Moon Knight fan. And if you haven't read, we're not today's episode's not going to be too much about comics because I know Vincent doesn't read a lot of modern stuff. But we will
Mhm.
be talking about some earlier things. Hint, hint. We're talking about Green Lantern today. Possible Blackest Night episode. Just saying. But
Yes.
the new run of Moon Knight really goes into a lot of his philosophy and things. Moon Knight in the comics, I don't know if you know, but Moon Knight like was like told by Khonshu that like he needs to kill Mephisto, stole a bunch of the Avengers powers, and ended up using the Phoenix Force to defeat Khonshu himself, which
What?
gave him yeah, I know, comic books, right? But it gave him a big inner conflict because, like, it's spoilers for the modern Moon Knight run. Uh, he himself, he's conflicted not with the fact that he's Jewish in his beliefs, but within the fact that he believes in Khonshu despite all of the manipulation that he has had. Not like a Stockholm syndrome type of thing, but the way that
Interesting.
he talks about it is the fact that Khonshu has been so much of his life. He gave him his life back from dying, like after dying, and Khonshu's consumed so much of his life. Why wouldn't he be loyal? It's all he's known. Like, his life is so broken. The only thing he knows is definite is Khonshu. So if you haven't been reading that run, it's a great run. It's also a great picking up point because they do reference some things, but it's definitely a good way to understand Moon Knight as a character. And he fucking fights vampires and shit. Like, it's awesome. Um, in other news, the Multiverse of Madness Funko Pops have been released. Pretty awesome. They just saw like a white part of the screen just pop up right there. They look pretty awesome. Defender Strange, his girlfriend, and a bunch of other characters getting their own Funko Pops. A lot more than I thought they were going to release, but
It's a
definitely
lot of
interesting.
Funkos.
Definitely interesting for what's possibly going to be the biggest movie this year for Marvel. Um, Depending on what they reveal. Uh, Besides that, I put in my notes that Morbius is still getting released in April. It's honestly becoming like how New Mutants was. Like, it's just becoming a meme. Like, it's just getting pushed back, pushed back. Um, but with Jared Leto and Andrew Garfield being shown together, like I said before, that's possibly some good news. It's not being pushed back anymore. It's getting so close to the date that hopefully we see the full release in full swing. Um,
I'm so curious to see what universe this ends up popping into.
Honestly, if if No Way Home ended differently, I would have thought that it was like a conglomerate universe, but we know that's not true. So,
Yeah.
spoilers for No Way Home, by the way, if you haven't seen it already. Schlubs. Um, some new game
Get on it.
release, some new game releases that I have down. I just grabbed everything that was coming out in this month. Today, Shadow Warrior 3 came out. Interesting. Babylon's Fall comes out this month. Gran Turismo 7, racing game, I assume. Triangle Strategy, which I think Triangle Strategy was a Nintendo IP, if I remember right. It
I
was
think
showed off
so.
at E3. The new GTA 5 next gen releases is sometime this month. Stranger of Paradise, FF Origin. I'm guessing this is a Final Fantasy game. I kind of just grabbed some of these. The last three are the only ones I
Hmm.
care about. Tokyo Ghostwire releases at the end of the month, same day as Kirby Forgotten Land and Tiny Tina's Wonderland. That is a stack day for a bunch of good
Wait,
games.
all three of them release on the same day?
Yes.
No.
Kirby's Forgotten
Not
Land.
again.
Kirby's Forgotten Land is a really interesting game that we saw trailers for. Tokyo Ghostwire looks like if Doctor Strange was fighting zombies or something like that. And Tiny Tina's Wonderland is going to be awesome. Fans of Borderlands will know the name and will know the DLC expansions. Well, this is the standalone game, so.
Yeah.
And last on the news list is Batman releasing in theaters. I think officially Thursday, but I'm possibly going to see a screening tomorrow. Vincent, how
Oh
do you
man.
feel about what we're going
I'm
to see?
so excited. I first off, I I've been big into the idea of Robert Pattinson being Batman. I For people who are like iffy on him and worried that the guy from Twilight's not going to do a good job under the cowl, his recent stuff and I was skeptical. I was skeptical like the first week, and then I watched some of the recent stuff and the the roles that he's played recently. He is definitely able to do the more serious stuff and not just have it only be Twilight reigning over his head.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like how a lot of people are viewing like certain actors, like Andrew Garfield, like forever will be Spider-Man, but he's been
Hmm.
doing some amazing work lately, like Tick Tick Boom, just to name
Oh my
one
god, Tick
that
Tick Boom,
I don't think
so
it's
good.
being I don't think it's being nominated for anything this year, but should be. I think it's being nominated for one thing. I'm not really sure,
I
but
think he got nominated for an award or two from it as
yeah.
well.
So I feel like Robin Pattinson's getting the short end of the stick just because of the one bad movie he's in. It's like I, this is gonna be so funny when we talk about Green Lantern. What's his name? Hayden Christensen. Like everybody only remembers him as Anakin.
Oh,
No one knows what else he plays in. Like what else does I can't even think about anything he plays in besides being Anakin. Um, but like his lackluster role in the prequels that people feel. But yeah,
yeah. I've been looking. I don't know if you've looked at any other reviews.
no, I
Yeah,
haven't.
I've only seen really really good reviews. Everyone's saying, "Oh my god, it's borderline horror movie. They do not pull punches in it. It is a psychological
That's
thriller through and through." And then all of the negative reviews I have seen, everyone's like, I took my kids to this.
oh,
I was thinking about taking
I
my
wasn't
kids to
prepared
this.
for this.
This is not a kid friendly movie. Give me Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, I mean that's Batman, and it's young Batman too. Which if anybody's
Yeah, it's
read
year two
Batman,
Batman.
it's year two. Is always supposed
It's
to be year
year
two.
two.
Okay, so this is a Batman that's he's super young. Me and my brother were talking about this the other day. How like he was talking about Alfred's casting, and I was just like, "Oh, this is so good." And he's just like, "It doesn't seem right." I was just like, "Well, think about it. It's like Alfred that's like 20 years younger. He has spunk. Like he's gonna tell Bruce, who's in his 20s, how to live his life, like his father figure and stuff." But no, the trailers definitely excite me. It's definitely a different tone than I thought it was going to be. I think the Snyderverse definitely has alienated a lot of people just because it's the
Hmm.
most recent things, and a lot of people like you either watched The Dark Knight before Man of Steel or you didn't. So Batman versus Superman kind of gave you this false figure of how Batman is, which Ben Affleck's Batman wasn't terrible, but definitely could have been a lot better.
This is the first time in a long time that I've been excited to watch a DC movie, and this is also going to be my first time um since, well, I guess Suicide Squad was the last time I saw a DC movie, but before that I hadn't seen um another DC movie since probably the previous Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and the latest one is what we're gonna talk about next.
Oh god.
um, but yeah, no, super excited for Batman. If you were paying attention earlier, we're probably gonna have next week's episode be Batman. We're both gonna go watch it. So it just feels thematic and correct to talk about Batman during the time that it's hype. Um,
Yeah, man.
so to get into it, we're about 18 minutes in. I guess we're going to dive deep into today's episode. And today, literally like maybe an hour, 2 hours ago, we rewatched the Green Lantern movie. uh, Me and Vincent are really big fans of Green Lantern. Um, and we decided it would be very suiting for the first thing that we talk about, and a very uncomfortable position first time doing a podcast, is a movie that we both can laugh about. um,
That's a good way to put it.
and yeah, I guess we'll just start off with the beginning. The beginning of Green Lantern. Well, Vincent, what's the whole plot of the Green Lantern? Tell me the plot.
The plot?
Yeah.
Uh the plot is that the they shoved so much content. I hadn't, until we saw the start of the film, I forgot how much building up to actually giving us like Green Lantern they need to do to give some kind of like understanding of the
Also,
character. It What the opening itself was a voiceover for about four
yeah, it
five
was a
minutes
it was a
straight.
big lore dump, which was probably the best way they could have done it. But
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought it was funny because like I was looking at the time as we were going. I was just like, they're really cramming everything in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, no. The general plot of this movie is that the Guardians, the people who made the Green Lantern rings and harness the power of willpower, which is the green energy the lanterns are so known for, they at one point needed more energy or wanted more power, so they started trying to harness the power of yellow, fear. One of the Guardians went a little too close to the sun, became infused with the power, and became a horrifying immortal being named Parallax, who is sealed away.
By
Uh,
the Great Lantern Abin-Sur.
yeah,
And
and he breaks out, surprise, surprise, wreaks havoc, and Hal Jordan, a little human on Earth, ends up receiving a Green Lantern ring and gets roped into the core and needs to save his planet and everyone in the universe from this horrible monstrosity.
that is the nicest way that we could have explained the movie. Because on paper, that sounds really cool.
I am very curious to know, real quick, two questions. One, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this movie after rewatching it?
Honestly, okay, we're gonna get into critiquing like later, like afterwards, like
Hmm.
during it. Um,
Absolutely.
but I don't think like they did as best. I feel like they did as best as they could, like plot wise and like moving stuff forward. Like I didn't think it was terrible. It was a lot better than some of the DC stuff released, like story wise. But it's just like the animation and like God, this movie's known for the terrible CGI, you know. So like
Yeah.
you can't get around it. But I feel like if this was remade, even with Ryan Reynolds today, and they take notes of what was bad, this could be like a 9 out of 10 movie. Like honestly, I don't think take away the bad CGI and everything like that. This movie is. I think this is a good movie. I think I'd buy tickets to see it if it got redone, like and visually looked better. But the way that it is, I'd give this like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7 if you look past the fact that Kilowog looks like a pit bull. But we'll talk about that later.
He is my sleep paralysis demon. It is truly horrifying. I almost threw up a little bit in my mouth when I saw him. I forgot how bad he looked.
Yeah, so to go through a little bit, we'll just look through some of our stuff in the notes. This movie has an interesting beginning because it's narrated to explain some things that is explained to people who probably don't know anything about Green Lanterns. It's condensing information from like 20 plus years of comics into an actual coherent storyline. Interestingly enough, I looked this up as we were watching this. This story takes place, it was released months before the New 52. So
Hmm.
that means that this story takes all of its notes from everything before it. So post crisis, which is
Hmm.
interesting because the way that they've done a lot of it. It could honestly, I thought this was going when I learned this information, I would have thought they would have went for something like akin to like not Emerald Knight because that's something that needed to be done like a sequel. Uh, but
Hmm.
I think that they would have picked on some other things because the New 52 like retcon some things, not much in Green Lantern, but like story beats. So yeah, I thought that was something super interesting. So yeah, we open up. This movie sounds like it's narrated by Ewan McGregor. Like it just sounds like Obi-Wan is talking through like the beginning and the end parts. Um, and yeah, it got me feeling like I was watching Star Wars for a second. Like we were gonna like get talking about like the Book of Obi-Wan that's gonna come out. But yeah, no. So like the introduction, and then he starts to talk about like the lantern cores. He says there's 3,600 lanterns. That seems very small, like for like the known universe.
Yeah. No, and it's like it's one lantern per sector too. Like there's got to be more sectors than just 3600.
I'm pretty sure. What was it? 300. It's probably 300, 300, 3,500 and like 97 because he said four of them died and then Hal got replaced.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
It's even smaller.
yeah, even smaller lore. Um, yeah, and Parallax, man, that's not Parallax.
I
That was someone with dreads.
Yeah. I will say I'm very concerned for the people in this universe if the mightiest of the lanterns, Abin Sur, thought that this horrible god that has destroyed two planets um can be sealed away by just a little bit of green and then like four rocks.
Oh my gosh, did you get Rita Repulsa vibes when when they got to it? I was like, astronauts going to an abandoned place where a sealed monster is.
I honestly got throwbacks to the start of the Justice League the animated series movie. Um
Yeah.
but uh
I was waiting for Parallax to say after 10,000 years he is free, but um,
and apparently three alien souls is enough to be able to give him enough power to break out of his bindings.
yeah, they. I think that's why a Green Lantern wasn't designated to guard the planet because he easily killed them later on in the movie.
It's true.
But yeah, Parallax's design is questionable at best. Um, Parallax, like in the comics, looks kind of questionable, but he looks cool. He's like a cool yellow alien looking thing, uh, like spiny ish. But this guy looks like an alien from Destroy All Humans. Like he looks like a typical alien, which
Very angry octopus.
given his origins would make a lot of sense. But yeah, design I give it like a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Uh, something else. Throughout this movie, like you get these feats of like how powerful Green Lanterns are, and like later on in the movie, we get to see how like seemingly warp drive through like a black hole to get to like the other side of the galaxy. Why was Abin on a ship? Why was he on a
Well,
ship?
it's in case his ring finger gets tired.
That is the. I never thought about it till now. But like, why was he on a ship in the first place? Like both in the movie and in the comics. Like they're
Okay.
Green Lanterns. They always fly everywhere.
So Parallax was sealed in the Lost Sector, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't which is completely different from where Abinsur's supposed to be patrolling.
Yeah.
But he's there in the ship. So the only reason that I can think of is to like save energy. But if he's able to go through black holes, then like surely there's a black hole to get him over there.
Yeah.
But what this movie does this thing a lot where it likes to teleport the characters around a
Yeah.
lot
They're just going
because
everywhere.
Parallax comes out of his jail cell and fucking slams Abensur and lethally wounds him. And Abensur's like, "Oh, I know what to do. Set course for Earth." And then he's there in like 5 seconds.
By the way, the ship. I said it during the film. It was designed for him to get his ass whooped because he got slammed into the wall, fell through a hole, and then slid down a hallway into an escape pod. Like it was specifically made for him to get attacked in.
There's later parts in the movie too that just have characters teleporting around a lot. There's a point much later on where Hal is fighting Parallax and they're flying through the asteroid belt, which is over by Jupiter. Um
Yeah.
5 seconds later, they're at the sun.
Yeah. I mean,
How did you do that?
I mean, I'd say more for like the comics. Like it's very feasible because like they're very strong. Like Parallax in this movie. Spoilers for Green Lantern, by the way. We didn't say this, but why are you watching this if you haven't watched it? Um, like Parallax in the comic books, like the emotional entities are something completely different from what they're making them seem like in this. Like Parallax in this movie isn't an emotional entity. It is one of the Guardians who was corrupted. So in the comics, the emotional entities were like the first living organisms to experience whatever emotion they represent. So Parallax, if I remember right, Parallax is like, I gotta pull it up real quick. I don't know what Parallax looks like.
He's
Parallax
like
is
he's like a yellow bug.
Yeah,
Uh,
Parallax looks like, yeah, he looks like, I think he's supposed to be like a mantis or something like that, or a grasshopper. So like Parallax was an organism that first experienced fear. I think Parallax experienced fear of something, uh, but it became like a godly being. Like that's what the emotional entities are. They're godly beings who can inhabit other beings to grant them like their powers, which is kind of
mhm.
like what we saw in the movie. Not really, um, but yeah. Also, Abin Sur's Boba Fett. Like, it's just disgusting. Like I heard it. I just finished what the not the last episode, but the third to last episode of Book of Boba Fett, and like I just heard his voice. I was just like, oh, I am Boba Fett. But yeah, um, this movie, the introduction, it's not. It's been a while since I've read a Hal comic. You know what I mean? Like it's been a while since I've read a Hal Jordan centric comic book. Kyle's my favorite Green Lantern. Just so you guys know, second to Guy Gardner, the best Green Lantern. Um,
He's the best Green Lantern.
but this version of Hal, and like I put it in my notes later, like it just feels like Ryan Reynolds is just playing himself. Like they put him into a different type of, like they put him on different clothes, but it's just Ryan Reynolds.
You know, I was thinking about this for a bit after we got done watching it, and just poking around, seeing what others thought as well. Um, this movie was supposed to kickstart DC, the DC's version of the MCU.
Yeah,
That had been going on for a while now. What 2011 was the year that Captain America and the Winter Soldier came out, I think,
yeah, sounds about right.
or sometime around there. But it feels kind of like Ryan was doing like a Tony Stark version of Hal Jordan, where he was just this pompous asshole the entire way through. But he like getting his power, we never saw him like suffer really to like earn this power and earn our respect. Um, so he was just, and a lot of other characters were the same way. Everyone was just sort of mean throughout the
Yeah,
whole
just
movie.
the entire cast of this movie, like how Jordan's mean, but like everybody just shits on him the entire movie, and not the fact that his dad like died. Spoilers. His dad dies like in the movie, and like that's one of his like big only characterizations is that he has a dead father. But like
It was
everybody
also the
just
most
mean
generic
to him.
flashback too.
His dad, I don't remember how Jordan's dad died in the comics, but I know it was in a plane accident. I don't think it was like that though. Like he knocked out the control tower, exploded. Like that was some
And
Man of
parked the
Steel.
plane.
That was his Man of
He
that was some Man of Steel tornado Jonathan Kent stuff.
he parked the plane, got out, looked at his kid, and he
Kaboom!
exploded.
Yeah,
Like I don't know about Hal. Like he's obviously got, or at least this version definitely has something messed up in his head. I would never go near a plane again.
yeah, he. Yeah, getting into a plane after seeing your father get exploded by one is definitely very questionable. But I don't know this version of Hal Jordan. I just feel like it definitely feels like Ryan Reynolds, but it also feels like how he puts his characterization into like Deadpool. Like very
Yeah.
cocky, very not arrogant, but definitely like says what's on his mind type deal. Like not I want to say he feels more like Deadpool from the Wolverine Origins movie, less Deadpool from like the Deadpool movie type of
Yeah,
deal.
I'd agree with that.
Um but yeah, cuz like I feel like Hal is more professional. Like some of the animated movies and stuff like put him off as jokey and stuff, which is like how he is until all of Coast City dies, but that's besides the point. Um but like I feel like were taking hints of like other characters, like a Wally West or like a Green Arrow type deal,
Yeah.
um, which are both of his friends, but at the same time, uh, yeah, in the beginning, so a good part of an actual part of like the plot in like him, like in his job. So Hal, after witnessing his father get exploded by a plane, was like, I'm still gonna fly planes. Like that's the only thing I'm good at. He literally says that in the movie. Uh, for he works for Ferris Industries or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're doing like a plane test to do like the automatic drone planes, and like him and Carol Ferris, his love interest, played by his wife, Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively. They get into the planes, and like I didn't notice it until like halfway through they like have like a simulation on the computer. It looks like they're playing like Galaga or something. Like they don't shoot rockets at each other. It's like I don't know, like an infrared detection system.
And it was being helmed and overseen by Taika Waititi.
This was this movie made me. It had so many great actors in it, and like it makes you do a double take on why this movie did so bad.
Yeah. Do you know what the budget was on this movie?
No, do you know?
It was 200 million. Do you know what it made in the box office?
Less than 200 million.
219.9 million.
Oh wow, that's
It was horribly received.
that's that's crazy. And they had like a lot of A-list actors, and like Taika Waititi,
Yeah.
for those not in the loop, is doing amazing things now and directing and starring in his own stuff, and is just doing amazing things in Hollywood. But in this, he's resorted to the best friend of Hal Jordan.
He's the guy in the chair.
He
Every
is
character needs them.
he is the guy in the chair. But yeah, after that, uh, Hal is taken, literally abducted.
It's just walking around.
Abensur is dying. Uh, Abensur is dying. The Lantern, as opposed to in the comics when the Lantern would just leave a dead corpse and find somebody new in the sector, like he like has enough time to like send the essence out, kidnap somebody, and tell them what to do, very vaguely. Um, yeah, I didn't. I also
If
I knew that Hal Jordan had siblings in the comic books, and like he has a nephew. But that was something
Mhm.
that was very lately touched upon. Um, it also felt like it was supposed to mean something when he did something for his nephew, but like he was just like, this is my dead dad's plane.
we never saw them again past that point.
Nope.
It's very one-off characters that are like that would definitely be very important in this character's life.
Yeah, like I don't know. It they try to like make it like an emotional scene with his brother and being like, do you want to die like him too?" And like he storms off, and that's it. That's literally the
Yeah,
last
he
episode.
storms off set, and that's where they said wrap.
They're just like, "Thanks for coming in. Grab your sub on the way out." But he gets abducted. Um, uses his powers. Kind of. We get to see the Guardians. God, the Guardians in this movie. They
Oh
just
my god. Some of them looked like handsome Squidward. Um, their heads on the back, and then like kind of on the top as well. For some of them were they like almost see through, like they were like
jellyfish or something.
yeah, kind of. It was all the CGI, every single bit of the CGI is just okay. 90% of the CGI is gross. The
None of the
constructs are cool.
none of the
Um,
aliens look good. I mean, Sinestro
no,
and uh,
Aben look okay.
Abin looks okay. I think Tomar Ray looked okay, but like Kilowatt, we'll get to him. But they, they just made everybody as ugly as possible.
I for a movie that's supposed to be a visual spectacle, there's no way that you can make a Green Lantern movie and not have it have CGI. That's a guarantee. Um, but
Also,
like
like the Guardians are just like blue dwarves. That's all they had to do was just play blue dwarves. That's all they were.
yeah. Um, it I just don't know where the budget went for this movie. Because like poking around as well, uh, another really good visual movie came out the same year, a few months earlier, Rango. And that
Oh,
movie's completely in CGI. I think that's one of the greatest looking movies that's been made, especially for like just animated full 3D. Um and that movie had a budget of 135 million.
wow.
It's
That's
almost it's so much
crazy.
less, but it did so much better and looks so much better. There's so many things that they could have done practically. I don't know why his suit wasn't like at least partially practical.
At least the
Even the
mask.
mask itself
I
was CGI.
it it was very very questionable. To jump ahead a little bit, we even see like when he gets. It's odd because like when he gets to, I guess we'll get to it. Uh, but we see Dr. Hammond, who is one of the antagonists in the movie. I call him Mr. Bighead. He has some weird name in the comic books, but Hector Hammond, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Hector Hammond. He just has like psychic abilities. He's literally like the thinker for the Hulk, except he just has a big head and he's not green. Um, yeah, it has nothing to do with Parallax, where he seemingly gets his powers and everything. Um, but he gets hired to dissect Abinsur's body, or to at least to investigate it, by Amanda Waller. Man,
Out of left field.
I I didn't even know that when I first watched it. I mean, I probably didn't think about like the greater DC like universe, but like the leader of the Suicide Squad, or like the normal leader of the Suicide Squad, just odd. Um, Played by Angela Bassett. Uh, Pretty crazy. Like I said before, like they have a lot of good actors in this. Just yeah. Um, Something funny.
Wow. Mhm.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, while Hammond's dissecting the body is when we like start seeing the secondary villain like start to form, because he touches Abinsur's open wound and then gets like infected by a bit of parallax that was left over in it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um and that's what gives him his abilities and stuff, and starts like letting him supposedly read people's thoughts. I think it actually is him reading their thoughts, but I could never tell if that's just like parallax making him go crazy out of his own personal fears on what other people think of him.
Honestly, I feel like it can
um
go either way because uh, his comic origin's really funny because like he just gets his powers from a meteorite that came from space, and he just
yeah,
radiation mutation, and then he just gains psychic abilities because big brain.
but I'm confused because why wasn't Hal infected? His fingers were basically inside of that wound as well for Abin. He had his hand on it like almost the entire
He
time
kept
that they were
wiping it,
on. He kept touching it.
kept
The
wiping it
fucking
with his hand.
freak.
Yeah, that scene was so it like again like very Ryan Reynolds. Like he
Don't do that on me as the guy's trying to just die in peace.
don't do that to me. Oh man, that's the worst handled death scene I've ever seen. Like it's not like in the original comics it was like Hal was crying because like he just met the person, but like
Yeah.
he just started wiping his blood back onto his dead body. It's like it was
Ew.
pretty bad. Um, the oath scene. So he takes the lantern back home, and like he's told that he has to say an oath, but like he doesn't know the oath, and like I thought it was very much like how like when Spider-Man in the first Raimi film was like trying to figure out how his webs worked. Like he just started doing random crap.
Go, web, go.
Yeah, and he was like, by the power of Grayskull. Which is pretty cool. And then he taps it, like he makes contact from the ring to the lantern, like apparently like psychically knows it. We talked about this before the beginning of it, but like the ring is a piece of technology. And like
Yeah, it's like talking a lot when whenever you read a Green Lantern comic, or at least modern ones, the Ring is always talking, giving updates on like how much power is left inside of it, whether the environment is safe to be able to breathe
Yeah, it has
and
it
stuff.
has each ring has like its own AI. The central power battery is just like a battery, but like each of them are advanced pieces of technology, and like they just totally glimpse over this in the movie, like where it could have been like another role. But I feel like now that we bring up the fact that this came out in 2011, they probably didn't want to like seem like they're copying Jarvis.
That's
That's why,
fair.
yeah,
That's fair, but I feel like it definitely would have added something to the movie, like and we'll talk about it later, but like the when he's fighting Parallax at the end, I would have loved to hear like the voice as the battle went further and further, just hearing the Ring's voice pop up and be like, uh 50%, 35%, 20% battery remaining, battery
yeah.
critically low as the fight's nearing its like penultimate moment. It would have it would have added more tension to what was just something that you just sort of watched happen.
Also, it took away one of the greatest things that like kind of happens in Green Lantern comics. Whenever a ring bearer dies, like the AI announces their name, deceased, searching for a new host, and then one of the coolest things, like you see, like especially like they do this a lot
Oh,
at the
the
end of comics.
invitation.
They're uh, like usually it would be like Hal Jordan of Earth. You have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. Like that is something that I feel like if I heard in movie theaters, I would give me chills. Like
Yeah.
it's something very it's a Green Lantern like trope. It's something that always happens. We don't see anything bar the mid credit scene of any like other Lantern Corps, but like it's always something cool to see. Like it literally has happened to like random people. Like in the comics, like it happened to Batman. Like he got a yellow lantern ring. Like Bruce Wayne of Earth. You have the ability to instill great fear. You belong to the Yellow Lantern Corps, or you belong to the Sinestro Corps. It's something that's taken away from it, and also I feel like an AI would have definitely washed away some of the introduction to Oa, which I feel like would have been a good thing, like explaining what the core is, how to use the ring, all things that I feel like the AI should tell like a first time wearer.
Tomar Ray just sort of fills in
Yeah.
for it and talks to us as he shows off Oa, which is brown,
Well,
as opposed to the normal like emerald green, like
yeah.
Wizard of Oz looking place that it normally is.
Yeah. So, well, to skip ahead a little bit, Hal goes to a bar, which I think he's a drunk. We say that like in the middle of the scene happening, like
He drinks a lot throughout the whole movie.
yeah, we think he's a drunk. Which I mean, yeah, the way his dad died, I would drink every day too.
Yeah.
Um, he leaves the bar, and we're just flabbergasted at the scene because it looks like he's walking out of a factory, like a half blown out factory.
He walks through like it's very clearly a kitchen door because it has a big old porthole, and for like bars and restaurants, porthole windows on doors only lead to restaurants so that you can see on the other side and see that you're not going to just smack somebody in the head. And
And
then he's just at a dilapidated building.
yeah, like it's just a random like it looks like a factory from what we see, and like it literally walls are missing, like chunks. It's missing a third of the building. Um,
And then gets his ass handed to him.
it just gets jumped by people. So in the beginning of the movie, Hal like fails at like winning over these corporate executives for his company, and like they choose the AI plane over like actual pilots. So like or what is it? They don't choose the AI plane because of what Hal Jordan did.
Yeah,
So
they don't go through with the deal.
so people are getting laid off. So the people who are getting laid off jump him as he's going to his car, um, which is insanely hilarious. And we are just like, who the hell are these guys? He's just randomly getting jumped, and they're just like, we lost our jobs because you, Jordan. We're like, oh,
Yeah, and he doesn't get knocked out. He in all ways that it could have gone, he could have gotten beaten up a lot worse, and then they decide to just walk away. Which would be great. But then Hal is like, "Oh, we're not done yet. My face can take some more," and grabs a bucket full of nails, goes to try to maybe throw the nails at them for some reason, and then just probably kills them with unleashing a giant Green Lantern fist.
yeah. One of the guys literally went through a brick wall. I'm pretty sure if anybody
Yeah,
died, it's definitely that guy.
at the very least, irreparable damage.
Yeah, these guys are paralyzed. And then
They thought they were out of work.
they're never going back to work.
No.
And then after that, some transition scenes later, he gets warped to Oa, and like this harpens back to like what I said. Like, why do they have why do they have ships when you literally see Hal Jordan going like Mach 50 and literally goes through a black hole? You know how fast you have to go through a black hole? We don't know because we're assuming that black holes in the real world are just infinite mass. So,
Yeah.
like, why a ship? But anyway, we see him go to Oa. He's the next scene we see with him is like he's like naked, but he has underwear on, and like it looks like a typical alien abduction scene. And seemingly that's how he gets his suit. Like, it's not something that apparently like is a construct itself, but like gets grafted onto him or something like that.
Yeah, but then it becomes a construct that the ring can make.
I didn't know if you know this, but I actually found out this a couple months ago, unrelated to the podcast. Um, that the Green Lantern suit, because it's a construct, apparently the suit in the parts that are green apparently feel insanely hot, like thousands of degrees. I think in the comic book where it's referenced, um, Fire, one of the Justice League members who has the ability to like manipulate fire, she touches
Hmm.
him and is like, "Oh my god, like this part of you is like super hot." And like she touches the black part, and like that is apparently the absence of light, so it's insanely cold.
Oh,
Um,
so it just sort of evens out?
I don't know. This was the only time it was ever brought up, but like
Huh.
I can only imagine that if that's how the suit feels, like shouldn't his constructs be melting things? You know,
Probably.
like those people. I think that guy like who went through the wall, like he's just melted.
Yeah.
If by that logic. But anyway, um, so he wakes up. He's greeted by Tomar Ray, and he gives him to like the introduction of Oa and everything like that. And he also tells him that his mask is for identity protection, which makes no sense because later on we see that his identity is very able to be figured out.
I love when Carol has her scene with him and she's like, Hal, and sees through it. She pokes fun at the idea that just like a little mask can like protect somebody's identity. I forget exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines of, what do you think a little piece of fabric above your cheekbones will make it so that I can't tell who somebody I've known since my childhood is?
Yeah, it's
How does Superman get away with just taking off a pair of glasses, man?
now there are some like if you ever see like side by sides of some celebrities with like with makeup or like a change of hairstyle, sometimes it's believable, but like Superman puts on glasses and parts his hair. Hal Jordan in this movie literally just puts on a mask, does nothing different. So like of course it does. Of course it looks like him. Like at least Superman attempts it in some type of way. Um, but Tomar Ray shows him around Oa. I explained this fact to Vincent during the movie. For those who don't know, Tomar Ray is actually Krypton the Green Lantern. He monitors the sector where Krypton inhabits. So if you ever wondered why Krypton was never saved by a Green Lantern, there's actually a comic issue, one-shot comic issue that explains that Tomar Ray did try to save Krypton, but excuse me, um, the law of the Guardians in the comic is that if a planet comes to its end through natural means of either the planet or the society, that the Green Lantern Corps cannot help out in any way. So instead, Tomare tries to collect as much lead as he can from existing planets and try to like fuel the core and stabilize it. But literally, as he steps toward the planet, it just explodes. So he tries at least. Uh, just a quick fun fact about Tomare. Um, but onto Oa, it is brown, not green. Like
It's it looks so generic too.
it looks like for those Yu-Gi-Oh players out there, I said it looks like a bunch of Clifforts. Like it literally just looks like a bunch of random machinery. Which who lives on Oa? Because
Lots of spirals.
like like who lives on Oa? Like Oa, I thought it was meant to just be like the home base for the Green Lanterns. Like, am I supposed to believe that there's like actual inhabitants?
Apparently.
Um,
Maybe this is like a weird one where there's more like underling guardians.
yeah, they train the younglings. Um, but yeah, no, and then how after Tomare like shows him around,
Speaking of training.
he gets we get the introduction of Kilowog, who I love Kilowog in the comics, but this movie does not do him justice at all. First of all, he's ugly, like all the other aliens in this movie. Um, he looks like a pit bull mixed with a Rottweiler, and kind of shaped like a giant ogre.
And
So
even less of a nose.
yeah, he just they did my boy dirty. And then after he's training with Hal fights Sinestro because um, Sinestro is Avensur's underling, so he feels like Hal has a lot of shoes to like a big space for shoes to fill. Um, and yeah, they have interesting altercations. You don't really get the vibes that Sinestro like if you know who Sinestro is, you know that he's gonna be a villain, but you don't really get like too many hard pressing vibes that he's really evil in this movie.
Yeah, he just seems sort of dedicated, which is good.
It's very much his character because
Yeah.
Sinestro does evil things in the comic books, but like whenever he dons a green ring again, he's very much like clear headed.
Yes.
He's definitely uh, he's definitely for his morals and his ideals, whether he has to like do terrible things in exchange. Um, Later on, we like a couple scenes later, we see that Hammond is apparently like a college professor, like some sort of teacher, and like starts to hear voices from Parallax, whether it be his psychic abilities or like hearing, like Parallax is just like talking to him. He then uses his abilities to throw a kid across the room.
You called me a loser.
The most childish thing he could do, and then he just runs away.
Yeah. Yeah, class dismissed, and then he runs out.
He's just like, I'm leaving. And then we see he gets Amanda Waller wants to bring him in again. Hector's dad is a dick, by the way.
Not a good person.
But he raised a creep. I thought Hector was really creepy in this movie. Just the way that he like obsessed over Carol, definitely makes you not like him.
Yeah, tons of like newspaper clippings, not even like pictures like of them together. It's just very, very distanced. Ooh.
Yeah, like very. It makes you cringe sometimes.
No,
Um,
it's not good.
then we get the bar, not the bar,
It's
the
the
party,
dinner.
the party,
Yeah, the
yeah.
party.
Where Hector is still a creep, um, and
The the
go ahead.
party the party is because the deal, even after Hal's befuddling with it, Carol managed to still seal it, and they fixed the problems with the robots that Hal showed off, even though the problems weren't really going to exist. And we have another really gross scene with Hector. Every time he's on screen, it's just gross. He sees Carol after they have a big speech, walks up to her, steals a guy's champagne,
Who's standing right next
and
to them?
standing right next to him, just grabs it from his hand, gives it to Carol. He's like, cheers. And they go in for a hug, and he just sniffs, takes a full whiff of her hair.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure she like notices it, and Blake Lively like tries to act it out where she plays it off.
Oh my god, man.
I don't. I think Hector is supposed to be like they're supposed to be like a trio of friends growing up.
I think so. That's sort of the gist that I got.
Yeah, and like he's like the creepy third wheel. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
But he uses psychic abilities when I think it's his dad. His dad's the senator. Hector's
Yeah,
dad.
his dad's the senator. His dad hops in a helicopter to leave. Which also, when it's taking off, it is just hovering probably like 10, 15 feet above people,
Yeah,
and
there's
there
no
is
wind
no
resistance.
wind.
There's
There's
nothing
no
happening.
wind. And Hector uses his psychic powers. He gets mad and scowls really hard, which causes a um beer spigot to break off and go flying into the back fan and send the helicopter spinning. And everyone just stands there staring at it like an idiot.
Everyone, no sense of danger. They're just like, it's fine.
That I'm convinced they didn't show anyone dying, but I if you see this crash, because the helicopter does like fall down, go through like a big jumbotron, and then just go flying across the middle of the party. And since nobody had run away until this moment, there's definitely some people that got crushed by that thing.
Yeah, there are definitely some dead people after that. And then we see our hero Hal Jordan mask up and save the day. Turns the freaking airplane into the helicopter into a Matchbox car and like takes it on a Hot Wheels racetrack.
And see, that's where the movie starts really shining for me. In the moments where the constructs are on the screen and it shows actual ingenuity for the Green Lantern, I really like those moments.
Yeah, I think it's one of the unique things. Like, despite the fact that like it's put in a universe where like people like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, they all get their like Superman's super strong, nearly invincible. Wonder Woman's like kind of that, but a little less, and she's a woman, so representation. And then Batman's this rich boy who has like family issues. Like every Lantern has definitely been unique. Like the way that you use the lantern is like your mind, right? So like like different versions of the Green Lantern have used it in very different ways. Like John Stewart is ex-military, so he uses a lot of firearms and a lot of military related weapons and machinery in his constructs. Um, Guy Gardner is just like a dude from New York, so like he uses like baseball bats and like boxing gloves and like other things like that. Something that he would know himself. And
Hmm.
people like Kyle. Kyle's my favorite because he's an artist and like he literally takes creativity to the next level using the Green Lantern ring. Like he makes mechs. Like he creates these like intricate ideas and puts them into life with the Green Lantern ring. Um, and you see different hints about like Hal's personality and different things that we've seen throughout the movie in his constructs, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, his well-rounded interests of Matchbox cars, uh, old airplane machinery, and then like World War II anti-air infantry.
Yeah, good old Hal, man. Um, and then it's a little foggy for me, but I think he starts to mutate into like a
Yes.
creepier version, and Amanda Waller brings him in, uh, and then his dad's like, "We're gonna cure you," and he's like, "I don't want cured. This is the best I've felt ever, Dad." Kills his father, slams Amanda Waller into a glass plane, or glass pane. She's seemingly dead. Father is roasty toasty in an oven. Which why do they have giant flamethrowers in the science lab?
I don't know. I think they were actually like broken pipes,
And then he just
like
psychically made them big heads.
psychically. Yeah, maybe.
That's
I
just a
don't
weird
know.
theory to have. But Hal comes in, saves the day. I think Amanda Waller's alive because he like makes her body move away with like a flowing construct of water, which was really cool to see.
It was
Um,
very cool.
After that, he fights him for the first time. Uh, and then after that, he fights him for a second time because he abducts Carol.
Yes.
Um, and
And
then
he has Hector has Carol suspended uh in the air with a needle filled with presumably his now yellow blood,
yeah,
just inches away from her neck, ready to inject her and transform her into whatever horrifying abomination
the hills have eyes,
like
but
him.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
Um,
Megamind.
yeah, and he ends up. I don't even think he ends up beating him. He like goes for the power play, and then not Sinestro, Parallax comes and like eats Hector alive, and like reabsorbs himself into him.
Hector just Hector got like the shortest end of the stick the entire movie. Nobody liked him the entire way through, albeit he was a creep. But like he was a creep who all of a sudden started getting some power for the first time in his life. And um even with the power, he wasn't good enough
And then he
to
just
do
killed.
anything, and then got his soul ripped out of his body and was reduced to a skeleton.
The Parallax kill scenes are the most graphic thing in this movie, and it's so interesting.
Earlier, we didn't talk about it earlier in the movie.
Oh yeah,
Sinestro
I
talked to
totally
the
forgot.
Guardians and was like, I need to assemble a team to go beat this giant demigod or full god, whatever. And they're like, okay, keep in mind that they have over 3,000 Green Lanterns, this invulnerable deity. They send 12 people, 12 to go beat
Less,
it.
because he said I need 7 of our greatest men. So there's 8,
Probably.
including him.
And like, what? Over half of them die?
I think all of them die except him. Yeah,
Oh.
like they do some really cool things with the constructs. Like they fire off needles and like make a net around him, which is really visually appealing. But then Parallax just eats them all.
Yeah.
um, but after Parallax eats Hector, Hal like fights him for a little bit, and then Parallax is just like, "You're too weak. You have fear in you. I can smell it. I can taste it." Um, and then for some reason, has this little powwow with Carol and Taika Waititi's character, and it's just like, "I can't beat him." They're like, "Yes, you can." He's just like, "Yes, I can," and then goes back to Oa for some reason to get information that he can do this from the Guardians, even though he like pretty much got kicked out because he wasn't good enough.
Yeah. And
Um,
we see the end of like a side plot that's been going on through the movie where Sinestro has been convincing the Guardians to reharness the uh, power of yellow and forge a ring for him to use to beat Parallax with.
which he actually does create that we see in the movie. But it's showed when Hal Jordan comes back and is just like, I can defeat Parallax by myself. And they're just like, go ahead.
I can beat him by myself. I just need your help.
And then they get
Okay.
no help.
And no help. He gets assisted by 3 other Green Lanterns who show up after the fight is over.
Yeah, it's literally him going there and being like, we need to beat Parallax. And they're just like, we're not going to sacrifice people. And then he's just like, well, I'm going to do it by myself. And they're just like, okay. Just like, good talk.
Glad
Um,
I came here.
which the Parallax, all of this that we're talking about with like the Parallax stuff and Hector, this takes place in like the last 30 minutes of the movie. This is like an hour, like a 2 hour movie, like really crammed. Um, but he fights Parallax. Real awesome scene towards the end. Um,
Yeah.
puts him into the sun. Really awesome. He uses like the fighter jets to like hold him back because Kilowog makes it a point during training that like he uses like a construct sun which has like insane gravitational forces. So he like puts him towards the sun, and not just does it burn him, it sucks him in. Pretty awesome, but he does like run out of juice or just falls out of consciousness, and then the three other lanterns that we know about that were name dropped come and save him.
And then they have a nice little victory party and congratulate Hal, who's a proper Green Lantern now, back on Oa.
Oh my gosh! And then we didn't talk about this earlier, but
Oh,
how he first gets recruited, how like he's in the middle of like the speech and like Sinestro's talking about Parallax, Post talking to the Guardians about like Parallax and killing everybody, killing like soldiers and him needing people to go fight him. So like
the beam.
he talks to like the entire corps seemingly. It's 3,600 of them, and like has like a rallying cry with them and like throws shade at Hal and saying like Abin Sur died, he could never be replaced, and then everybody just looks over at Hal, the new guy getting hazed, and then like whenever they cheer like the corps, like long live the corps, they fire like their beams into the air, which if you know how light travels through space, that just until it gets reflected off of a surface, it just keeps going. So
They shot basically a Death Star beam twice throughout the movie.
Yeah, the first time in the beginning of the movie, and the second time when Hal becomes a official member. They just some planets are just dead. Which that's the end of the actual movie. Like I said before, not terrible. I don't think this is a really bad movie. It's just has very questionable parts to it that, when put together, do degrade what it is. Yeah.
Carol and Hal have a great little scene together at the end of the movie where Hal's wearing the Green Lantern uniform, and Carol's like, "Can you take the mask off?" And he it just disappears from his face, and she says a great quote which I think just sort of sums up my feelings on the whole movie, which is, "Wow, I am never getting used to that."
Yeah. There's a mid credit scene where it shows Sinestro putting on the ring, which for those who don't know, Sinestro was in the comic books originally a Green Lantern, turned Yellow Lantern when he defied the Guardians and wanted to do his own thing and made his own corps. The Yellow Lantern Corps isn't actually called the Yellow Lantern Corps; it's called the Sinestro Corps because he is that. I don't think he's conceited, but it's very much all about him, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie, it was definitely a movie. I feel like if that was like the start of the DCU, it would definitely be interesting to see where else if they made like the same tonal shortcomings in the next movies. Like if they made a Batman movie in this tone, if they didn't use the Dark Knight, a Superman movie in like a similar format type thing.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad that people I can't really speak to too many like modern DC movies. I know it's not the case with the Shazam, but I'm just glad that people aren't that mean, because people they were just really mean in this movie. I know I keep saying it, but they really were. Hal's whole introduction, we like sort of talked about it. His quote unquote training with Kilowog was him getting beaten the crap out of and almost thrown into a sun for 5 minutes straight. And then Sinestro comes in and he's like, hey, Kilowog, hold up. My turn. And then he starts beating him up.
He gets assaulted not just physically but verbally. In the beginning, when like they're doing like the flight course and everything like that, they're just like, "Man, you sure aren't your father." And they're just like,
"Oh my god,
you really messed up, Hal," and like just verbally assaulting him and being like, "Good thing you can fly because you don't have brains." And like it just keeps going. Like even like Taika Waititi's character doesn't pull his punches, and like it's just like a verbal abuse. like throughout the entire thing. And like this poor guy who definitely, like from what we've seen, hasn't recovered from the fact that his dad died when he was a kid from the thing that he loves to do. Um,
I
just crazy. And then the Green Lantern Corps is just staring at him, just like stupid human.
I have a feeling he probably would have still signed up for it even if he had read the script, but apparently Ryan Reynolds had agreed to play the role of Hal Jordan without a script even having been written, or at the very least he hadn't read or seen a script.
I
And it
I
wasn't
think so.
until like within the past like year or so that he had actually watched the movie.
I think it's because everybody told him it was bad.
Yeah, no, he just didn't. He did his best to stay as far away from that movie as possible. One of the reasons why I like the one of the end scenes or post
Uh-huh.
credit scenes from Deadpool 2, where he goes
Uh-huh.
back in time and just murders him before the script goes out.
Yeah, I definitely. This definitely doesn't. This movie definitely doesn't do Ryan Reynolds justice, but like it definitely is. Uh, he definitely does it as best as he can, and I definitely don't
I
hate
think
the.
everyone did.
I definitely don't hate this version of Hal Jordan, but it's definitely not like my favorite comic book to movie like adaptations.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, this movie. What do you rate it out of 10?
3.
Three.
I really didn't like it. There was a point where I was like almost nodding off because I was just sort of bored. I thought it
Yeah,
was
I
really
was trying to talk
generic.
to you, and you're just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely. I just definitely thought that it was something interesting that we both could relate to for the first episode. Being
Absolutely.
Green Lantern fans, and this being the only Green Lantern film that we have to go off of.
Green Lantern Corps, man. Fingers crossed that HBO does good with it.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll definitely be better than this.
Yeah.
As long as they don't focus on certain things. I really wouldn't be mad if Ryan Reynolds just came back. I think he definitely looks like Hal Jordan. I feel like he'd play a good Hal Jordan. It's just
I
every
think so too.
everything else about the movie was just bad.
I it this movie makes me so sad. Another thing with it was that there was another bit of media that was released alongside of it to sort of just hop on the hype train, and hopefully it was going to succeed. Hopefully the movie was going to succeed so that the side project that they released was also going to succeed. The Green Lantern the animated series from
That
Bruce Timm was
it was
released alongside
so
it, and it
that
was
was
so
so
good.
good. Like
It
I
was
remember
really,
taking cues from
really
it.
good.
That I feel like if they just transitioned that 1-to-1 to live action, it would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I have nothing else to say on the topic of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
I've got nothing. I think this might be it.
Alrighty. I don't think we have anything else for news that I can think of. Marvel, DC. No. Oh, I totally skipped over this in the news. No one's gonna
Uh
pay attention to this part. The new uh, this is so funny. Funimation got bought up by Crunchyroll not too long ago,
oh. Yeah.
and Funimation's anime library today, actually, at the time of the recording, has all transitioned over to Crunchyroll. I think the entire thing, maybe not, only a couple things. It was a long list though. A lot of dubbed anime and some sub and dub was
That's
transitioned
great.
over. Um, also,
Finally, I can watch Psychopaths.
yeah. And also, the new Pokemon games were announced recently. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Oh
Have
yeah,
you
Violet and
have
Scarlet.
you seen anything of the starters?
I did. I saw the starters. I'm interested in the duck. The duck looks very cute.
I'm always interested in the water, but I end up getting the fire.
Yeah. The fire, I've seen too many memes already that the fire starter looks like the red guy from Among Us. I love Among Us memes. They're great. It's funny. It let him live for at least 24
I
hours,
found I found it on my
please.
Twitter. I'm gonna put it at the end of the video. But it's him with like a backwards hat and like a pair of Nikes. on. He just because like the little hair looks like it'll fit through like the back of a baseball cap.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, but yeah, new Pokemon games releasing sometime this year, next year. I don't think we got a release date. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, based on Spain, seemingly. The designs look okay. We'll probably talk about this more in a different episode. The more news we get released on it.
Absolutely. Fingers
um,
crossed that it has like the whole Arceus just throwing Pokeballs at things. I
seeming
still
from what
haven't
we've
picked up
seen,
Arceus.
it does seem open world like Arceus is,
Yeah, man.
with catching mechanic. Um, but uh, this is the end of the show. Next week episode, we are going to be talking about the new Batman movie. Fingers crossed that doesn't flop. I don't feel like it's gonna flop. We've only heard good things about it. Um,
Ah, I'm
uh,
so excited.
Super excited for that. Stay tuned for that. First episode release time is going to be a little iffy. The way that we're going to probably do these is every Wednesday, if we can. If not, twice a month, depending on how everything goes. But Wednesday is going to be the upload day that we do these. We record these Tuesday night. And yeah, links to everything going to be in the description and in the YouTube bio. I am at lying_mask on Twitter.
I am at Vincent Barlow 8 on Twitter.
And you can look us up on the Domestic Boyfriends Twitter account, Domestic BF Podcast, for any updates that we have and any of our social media shenanigans that we are going to be doing. Any other side projects and medias will be on all of our social media. More to come, possibly on Spotify, depending. Possible other things, depending on how this all goes. But thank you so much for listening, guys. Stay tuned for more. And the logo and banner should be up by the time I upload this. But if they are not, credits will be in the description. So thanks for listening, everybody.
See ya.